Hey friends, welcome to my channel. I'm Tirso and I'm a creative director based in New York City. In this video, I'm going to break down for you the progression of a graphic designer's career and what responsibilities there are at each stage. I'm going to do this in the context of magazine publishing because that's the industry that I work in. It is different for everybody, so depending on what company you work for, you're going to see a lot of blurred responsibilities throughout each position. I'll be doing this in two parts to make sure that I cover everything. I'll also be sharing some of the work that I've done at each stage of my career. Feel free to skip around depending on which position you're curious about most, or just hang out and learn about our design career. I don't even know if this position exists anymore, but it was my first position outside of college, so I'm just listing it. This is basically a very entry-level position. A majority of you are going to be looking for a junior designer position at this stage, but if you're struggling to find that, an art assistant position is a great way to break into the industry. In some cases, you'll be able to design, but the job focuses heavily on assisting, so that could be helping out during photo shoots, or it could be doing photo research. I haven't looked at my old work in a while, so I expect a lot of cringe, but we're gonna do it anyway. This was an Evite for the Green Awards for Chicago Magazine. I can clearly tell that I wasn't using a grid here, completely a junior mistake. But let's talk about what this project entails. It's completely type-based, which is an opportunity for you to showcase that you can communicate without image. This is another Evite that I worked on. At least I had a grid going, so that's progress. I would say that this project showcases that you can work with a lot of copy in a small space. I also worked on pages that didn't have many design elements. They're not the most complicated pages to work on, but being able to work on these is great for the department because it's something that you're capable of doing and one less thing for your boss to do. These are all simple projects that introduce you to design, but they showcase more than you might think. When I was assisting at Elle Decor, I wasn't really doing as much design work as I wanted to be. I went to an SPD event and met the legendary Paul Martinez, and he gave me some great advice, which is if you're not doing the work that you want to be doing, take the time to become particularly great at something else. So in my case, I wanted to become really great at Photoshop, so I learned retouching, I learned it properly, and every job has benefited from the skill after. A junior designer is also an entry-level job. It should be the first position that you look to when you're starting off your career, but as I mentioned, if you're struggling to find this job, getting a job as an art assistant is a great way to break into the industry. I don't know why junior designers have all the confidence in the world, but every time I get an application on my desk, they list themselves as a creative director, an art director, a photographer. They're everything under the sun, except they haven't accomplished anything yet. Now, did I do this when I was applying as a junior designer? Yes. Am I telling you not to do this now? Also yes. Do as I say, not as I do. So junior designers typically work on smaller design tasks. In a magazine, you will work on sidebars, perhaps the TOC or the editor's letter. The job is to introduce you to all the different design projects that the department works on. That doesn't sound so glamorous, but truly the point of the position is for you to learn. For example, even though banner ads are not the most exciting thing to work on, even though all the elements are the same, the orientation changes and the size changes, so you're learning how to work on different solutions for the same set of assets. It may not seem like a lot, but you have to be true to the position. If I have a junior designer resume on my desk, these are the projects that I expect them to have in their portfolio and showcase that they've mastered these skills. So learn everything you can. I promise it'll be worth it. Contrary to an art assistant, this position focuses on design. In the context of magazine publishing, I was working mostly on sidebars and more simpler pages, but I also worked on a lot of pages. So when working on the editorial side, there are regular sections that you work on every month. I worked on the sidebar called Pocket Guide for Chicago Magazine. All of the type styling was already set by the creative director. My job was just to make sure that everything fit. It was definitely a challenge, but with practice, it became easier over time. I sourced all the photos in this section, which were provided from each place, or I utilized stock photography, and I designed my little sidebar. I lived such a simple life back then. These are some of the earlier pages that I worked on at Teen Vogue. Still sidebars, but you can start to see that the pages are a little bit more designed here. They change every month, so it's great to come up with new solutions regularly. And these are some of the pages that I worked on. It's important to note that design doesn't need to be complicated in order to show your skills. By definition, a designer is in between a junior designer and a senior designer. I would say you're probably around 1 to 2 years of experience in your career. At this stage, you're more used to design, and hopefully you've gotten rid of all the tricks and hacks that you used to do in design school. The projects are a little bit more involved, but you're still working on your skill set. Some people actually start as a designer. Oftentimes you won't have a senior designer or a junior designer below you. You'll just have multiple designers underneath an art director or a creative director. I was a designer when I was at Teen Vogue, and it was extremely rigorous. We were churning out layouts left and right with multiple options for each. I would say that it really shaped me as a designer, and I'm so thankful that I had that experience. Here's some of the pages that I worked on after proving that I could handle the sidebars no problem. The layouts are more involved, there's more elements to the page, and I really enjoyed working on these layouts. Of course, how could I work at Teen Vogue and not work on things that contain Justin Bieber or One Direction? This is a stage in the career where your graphic design skills start building. I feel like there's more confidence in the approach to these pages. I say graphic design skills because art direction is different, but we'll cover that in part 2. At this stage, you're extremely comfortable designing and need very little direction for projects. I expect that senior designers come close or nail it on the first try. I say come close because there's so much going on that not everything can be perfect, but it reduces the amount of revisions since there's going to be internal approvals before it goes out to the client. As a senior designer, you'll have more responsibility to manage projects. In some cases, you'll oversee junior designers, but they won't directly report to you. You'll just have the opportunity to manage their projects as well. I would say that that's one of the most important parts of the job at this stage. When you're looking over someone else's work, you're starting to build your own taste for design, and you'll also start thinking of design solutions just by looking at something, and this is where you're going to grow the most. These pages you see often in fashion magazines. As a senior designer, I was more involved in the direction for the pages. I worked with the art director on how to shoot the product. I actually have a full library of every single shot we took of beauty products when I was there. There's a lot of options, so these pages took more time to work through. These beauty pages were actually with Eva Chen at Teen Vogue. She was great to work with, so that made things so much easier. After Teen Vogue, I freelanced at Wired. At this point, I was no longer afraid of a white page. Can we say grids? The line length on that deck might be too long, but we can't always be perfect. This was for MasterCard. Not so much going on with the layout here, but I built the image through comping in Photoshop, so that's where most of the design came in. Oh, I was proud of this one. Hands down, my favorite layout from this job. The concept here was that every creative can be made from just a dot, circle, or a box, which I purposely made on each page. On the cover, you have a dot, circle, and a box. On page 2, it's on the left side, a dot, circle, and a box. On page 3, on the top right, I used a different orientation to do it horizontally for a dot, circle, and a box. And then on the last page, very subtly, but it's there, a dot, circle, and a box. Not every reader will catch this, but when structuring design, it has to make sense to you first. I mentioned at this stage that you should nail it or come close on the first try. We were getting some custom notebooks printed with a different song lyric on each. These were my explorations on different designs. When you come with strong options, the creative director just has to choose one, maybe two, and the project is done. Side note that I would love to create my own set of custom notebooks. That would be for the future, but I'm just putting that into the universe for now. Thanks so much for watching. There's a link to a PDF with all the descriptions below. Stay tuned for part 2 where I'll go over the positions from Associate Art Director to Creative Director. Comment below if you have any questions and I'll be happy to answer them. I'll see you next time.